It was a rainy afternoon in Milan when Leonardo da Vinci first stumbled upon the secret of time itself. For years, he had studied the mechanics of the universe, everything from the flow of water to the mechanics of flight. But time, that elusive force, had always slipped through his fingers. But that day, his meticulous notes, sketches of gears, cogs, and what looked like a strange, unfamiliar device, came together in a way that no one, not even Leonardo himself, could have foreseen. The device was unlike anything he'd ever imagined, a machine with the potential to unravel the fabric of history. He'd built flying machines, hydraulic contraptions, and war machines, but this was something far more extraordinary. It was a time machine. As his hands turned the brass knobs and polished the intricate components, a hum filled the workshop. The world around him blurred. Leonardo had never been one to believe in superstition, but as the walls of his room faded and the air thickened with the scent of ozone, he realized something miraculous had just occurred. He wasn't in his studio anymore. He was somewhere else. The year was 1917. The streets of Paris buzzed with the energy of World War I, but Leonardo, despite being far removed from his time, wasn't fazed by the sudden shift. His mind immediately went to work, processing the technology of the time, the planes soaring overhead, the sounds of machine guns in the distance. His heart raced with excitement, not from fear, but from the boundless possibilities that lay ahead. What if, instead of centuries of war, there had been peace? What if these planes had never been designed to kill, but to bring humanity closer together? What if the greatest minds of his time, guided by his influence, had been inspired by his visions? The answers to those questions now lay within his reach. Leonardo had always dreamt of creating the most extraordinary flying machines, machines that could defy gravity, that could soar higher than the birds, far beyond the reach of ordinary men. And now, in the midst of the Great War, he could see exactly what the world was missing. With his invention in hand, Leonardo knew it was time to get to work. The people of this era, weary and battered by conflict, needed a glimpse of a brighter future, a future where technology was harnessed for creation rather than destruction. But how could he, a man from the Renaissance, possibly fit into a world so far removed from his own? Leonardo didn't waste a moment. He set to work designing a revolutionary aircraft, an innovation that would change the course of warfare forever, and maybe, just maybe, the course of history itself. What if the planes that bombarded cities could instead be used to deliver goods, to communicate across vast distances, to create a world of connectivity rather than chaos? As he sketched and toiled, he crossed paths with some of the greatest minds of the time. Georges Guynemer, the French flying ace, who was fascinated by Leonardo's designs, and even the great engineers of the day who marveled at his ability to see beyond the limits of the present. Leonardo didn't just dream of altering history. He was ready to make it happen. But his time in 1917 wasn't to be a mere blip. No, Leonardo had more work to do, more eras to explore. He couldn't stay here forever. He needed to gather the knowledge that would change the future of all time. And so, after sharing his ideas with a select few, he disappeared once more. This time, he didn't know where he'd end up, but he knew one thing. Wherever he went, the future would never be the same. When Leonardo's machine hummed again, he felt the familiar pull of the unknown. This time, however, the shift wasn't as disorienting as before. Perhaps it was the countless hours he'd spent tinkering with the device, or maybe the growing confidence that no matter the era, his genius could reshape the world. As the smoke cleared, he found himself standing not on a battlefield, but on the gleaming streets of a city that seemed to pulse with energy. The year was 2035. Autonomous vehicles glided by, hovering inches above the ground with a hum so smooth it seemed like magic. The people around him were engrossed in their own worlds, their attention split between holographic screens and the seemingly endless possibilities of a digital universe. For a moment, it was overwhelming. Leonardo was a man out of time, once again facing a world that his mind could scarcely have conceived. But the sight of those vehicles cruising effortlessly through the streets was enough to spark his imagination once more. He had envisioned machines of flight, of course, but these weren't just any machines. They were the future, autonomous, self-sustaining, efficient in a way that would have been inconceivable in his time. But Leonardo was never one to shy away from a challenge. In this new age, the possibilities for invention were endless. He was now surrounded by technologies that were far beyond anything he had ever dreamed of. But even in a world brimming with innovation, there were gaps, inefficiencies, problems waiting for a solution. And Leonardo, with his centuries of knowledge and insights, was the one person who could fill those gaps. With a new sense of purpose, he approached the city's leading engineers, offering his designs for what he called the sustainable machine, a vehicle capable of harnessing energy in a way that would revolutionize transportation. His ideas weren't just about fuel efficiency. They were about creating a machine that would adapt to the environment, pulling power directly from the atmosphere, using wind, solar, and kinetic energy in ways that no one had yet conceived. Leonardo's reputation preceded him, even in this future world. People marveled at his designs, his ability to integrate natural principles into his machines, from the mechanics of fluid dynamics to the aerodynamics of flight. And as he demonstrated his work, the world began to take notice. In just a few short months, his inventions were not only implemented, but embraced by the society of 2035. His version of the autonomous vehicle became a symbol of progress, a machine that not only carried passengers, but also cleaned the air and generated energy. Cities that were once overrun with traffic jams and pollution now thrived in an atmosphere of harmony between technology and nature. It was a world Leonardo could only have imagined, one where technology served humanity, not the other way around. But Leonardo, ever the restless innovator, knew that his work wasn't done. As much as he'd changed the future, his time here was fleeting. He had to return, to move forward in time and space, to continue his legacy of ideas, of discoveries, of inventions that would transcend the boundaries of any one period. His travels had allowed him to witness history in the making, but he understood that the ultimate purpose of his inventions wasn't to simply watch history unfold. It was to create it. One last time, he turned the machine's dials, feeling the familiar hum of energy coursing through the air around him. But before he left, he paused, looking out over the shining city. His name would be remembered not just for the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper, not just for the designs of war machines and flying contraptions, but for something much grander. His vision of a world where technology was not bound by time or place, but shaped by the hands of the curious and the brave. He had sown the seeds of progress in every era he'd visited, leaving behind a legacy not just of art, but of revolution. As the world around him blurred once more, Leonardo da Vinci knew that wherever or whenever he would land next, he would continue to shape the future. His mind, a boundless force of creativity and insight, would never be confined by the constraints of time. And so, as the hum of the machine filled his ears once again, Leonardo da Vinci's journey through time was far from over. It had only just begun.